Hey, salutations from lovely Hampshire County, Massachusetts. Oh, I'm pissing off a sapsucker. I have an audience here. Can you see that little bugger? Probably not. There he goes. Yeah, he ruined my intro. He actually made it much better than it would otherwise be. Little sapsucker. Anyway, yes, from lovely Hampshire County, Massachusetts. Today I'm I'm in the Holyoke Range State Park out here. Got some really interesting geology that I'll get into in just a second. Lovely forest makeup. We've got a nice ash right here, hemlock, Tsuga canadensis, ash, fraxinus, under a red oak, Acer rubrum. Over there we have not Acer rubrum, I'm sorry, that would be a red maple. Quercus rubrum. Over there we have another species of oak. We got Quercus montana. Quercus montana in the fray here. Down below me right there, got a young Tilia americana. And then a couple of pines. Not too many white pines, but a couple scattered throughout. As you can see, we're on a little bit of a hilly range here. I'll get into the geology of this region, why I'm out here today. So the geology of this region, this is the Connecticut River Valley. Goes right by here somewhere. And what we're standing on currently is a uplifted ridge of basalt. So there's something called the Metacomet, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Metacomet Ridge. I'll put the correct thing if I'm getting it wrong, which essentially runs from, south central Connecticut up to this location in a straight, nearly uninterrupted north to south line. It gets to this point here, and then it abruptly takes a right 90-degree turn heading to the east. So this north-south ridge, which essentially, and it's not very high either. I mean, we're going to be hiking up the highest point in this area. We're talking like under 2,000 feet here. So we're not that high up in the grand scheme of things, but I digress. So this ridge essentially runs, the length of I think it's on the western side of the Connecticut River Valley. Comes up to this point, abruptly turns to the east. That's what we're standing on now, this particular part of the range. And the entire ridge is made up of volcanic rock, which if you know anything about the geology of the region, it's fairly unusual. And we've been on volcanic rock before. We've been on a ring dike in New Hampshire. This is a little bit different. So what happened here was the Connecticut River Valley at some point in the Jurassic, about 200 million years ago, was a volcanic rift valley. So the continental crust rifted apart, filled with lava, cooled, and then what was left over subsequently was a rock known as basalt. It's an extrusive igneous rock, unlike granite, which is an intrusive igneous rock, and unlike a lot of the other, metamorphic rock you get east of this location. And unlike a lot of the sedimentary rock you get west of this location. However, there are some pretty expansive deposits of sedimentary rock in this area. So essentially you get a variety of geology in a very short range. Oh, I neglected to mention, so yes, that volcanic flood rift valley filled up with basalt, hardened, and then was subsequently uplifted. I always forget to mention that. So it's essentially sitting tilted on its side right now, which is why you get this formation of mountains and hills. So anyway, all that taken into consideration, you've got a very unique geologic, what's the word I'm looking for here? It doesn't, whatever. A unique geologic situation, we'll say, going on, which is obviously going to affect the plant community. I mean, I've already noticed some pretty significant differences between the areas east of here that I'm more familiar with and the areas north of here that I'm more familiar with. Seeing these massive, Quercus montanas over there, for example. Very interesting and very diverse, forest makeup here, at least in terms of trees so far. I've already seen quite a few plants that I'm going to double back across on my way in that I'd love to talk to you about. Species of Vaccinium I've never seen before. We've got mountain laurel, Kalmia, latifolia going off here. Some other unique stuff that I've seen that I'll have to figure out what it is, but really I'm holding my breath because I'm hoping we'll see a nice orchid or two. They've got some pretty robust orchid diversity from what I've heard and from what I've read. And I'll cut myself off here because I'll share with you a really good and informative paper. Actually, that's not a that wasn't a hemlock at all. That's a juniper. This is a hemlock. That's a juniper. Oops, my bad. God, I'm all over the place today. To cut myself off here, I'll share a paper with you that I read that goes really in depth. It doesn't go super in depth on the geology, but it goes really in depth on the flora. It's actually a flora of this entire state park that we're in. So I'll share that in the description for the video. In any case, I'm gonna put a couple more miles behind me. I'm actually gonna get in here. I've barely been walking for a half hour. We'll see what we can see. Hopefully, we can look at some of these. Catch some orchids, and even if we don't, I've already seen quite a few plant species that I would be delighted to share with you in just a bit. So we'll get into it. Okay, I figured now is as good a time as any to talk about this cool Vaccinium that I've never seen before. This is Vaccinium stamineum, commonly called Deerberry, I guess. And as you can see, it looks a little bit different than a lot of the Vaccinium you typically expect to see, such as angustifolium or corymbosum. Still having somewhat fused corollas there. Flip that guy over. I might get in there real good for a second. But you can see those are those porous anthers. See that little stigma there sticking out at the bottom? There's the face view. Really lovely flowers on this. The entire thing. Back up for just a second. The entire thing's it's a pretty tall shrub, probably about 4 feet. And covered in flowers. I guess this is somewhat of a disjunct population. I was just looking at a population map on iNaturalist, and it occurs all up and down this ridge, but then nowhere else around it. This is kind of far to the northeast of where it goes. I guess it ranges all the way down across the southeast and midwest, down into Mexico. So unusual for this locality, certainly unusual for New England, but fairly common elsewhere. Always love the genus Vaccinium. Lots of variety in that genus. You get everything from, damn near trees with Vaccinium arborescens to, tiny little diminutive bog plants like Vaccinium macrocarpon, the bog cranberry. Got a species of viburnum going off too. I'll give you a chance to see that in a second, but let me really get in there, give you a good close-up view of the flowers. Alright, so that's a real up-close view right there of what the interior part of that flower looks like. See the little green stigma sticking out there at the tip. Porous anthers, as you expect with any species of Vaccinium. Remember, porous anthers, instead of opening up like a hot dog bun, these guys are dispensing pollen like a salt and pepper shaker. So you basically save a little bit of energy that way. Pollinators got to get in there. It's got to buzz on them. Got to get that pollen shaken out, and then he's off to the next plant, hopefully to pollinate it. And there's that little calyx. Superior, I believe superior ovaries on Vaccinium. And I guess these are edible. They taste kind of a little bit more tart than blueberries from what I hear. What's that? Oh, look at this guy. Hanging out on this is what I love about, when you really stop and pay attention. Check out this juicy millipede on this guy. Look at that guy. Huh. That's pretty nice. I wonder what role he plays in the ecology of this lovely Vaccinium species. I'm absolutely delighted. That's a juicy millipede if I ever seen one. God damn. All right, I'll take a few pictures of our friend here and a few more pictures of this. I'll turn around. I'll show you. We'll talk very briefly about the species of viburnum we've got going off behind me here. Look at this guy. And no real reason to get the tripod out for this one. This is a species we've seen before. This is Viburnum acerifolium. We actually get this pretty frequently out east as well. It's not a weird disjunct here or found only on the volcanic and sedimentary stuff. Just any sort of rich woodland. You'll get this coming up under oaks, coming up under white pines. Give you a close-up of the flowers there. Typical viburnum inflorescence type there. Typical viburnum flowers. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I certainly love viburnums and acerifolium, of course, because it's got those maple-like leaves. Although the ones at this locality look a little less mapley than the ones that I'm familiar with. You know, you can get the type locality type of thing going on, and you know, they get about the same height as that. Actually, no, these can get pretty tall. What am I talking about? But yeah, don't need to spend too much time on this. Adoxaceae is the family, Viburnum's the genus, Acer is the species, and yeah, just a nice plant, relatively common, one that I'm familiar with anyway. Hey, here's a cute one. This is Hypoxis hirsuta. Yellow stargrass is the common name, and if I back up from that cute little yellow flower, you get a good idea of why. This guy's coming up like a little blade of grass. It's in its own family, Hypoxidaceae. I kind of forget how many species of Hypoxis there are around, but goddamn if this doesn't remind me so much of a Sisyrinchium, you know, in the iris family. Does the same thing, comes up like a stalk of grass with a little cute little, in that case, blue flower, although that tends to come up kind of at the top, you know, versus this, which is sending, you know, sending the flower up on its own little peduncle there. But yeah, these are the basal leaves, you know. I'm not super familiar with this family. This grows out east too. I think for a fact it does. But yeah, what a nice little plant. Likes the hillside community. Right here we get just really briefly, we get another rock type that I guess is really common here. This is one of the, oh geez, God, mosquitoes are terrible up here. That's the one complaint I have so far. Mosquitoes are goddamn terrible. This is Arcos. This is a type of sedimentary rock. I'll put a little, you know, subtitle there to explain exactly what's going on here, but you got effectively chunks of rock, you know, cemented together. I'm not sure if this is, you know, compressed conglomerate, what exactly is going on here, but this is, I believe, yeah, well, it's got to be a sedimentary type of rock, but it's rather interesting type, just to have those big chunks of other rocks in there, big chunks of minerals and whatnot. Coming up next to us, you get a good old Adiantum and racemosum. You get a loose strife here, a Sambucus quadrifolia, I believe, and then yeah, that Hypoxis, which I kind of like. Get that similar form factor to a Sisyrinchium, a plant, you know, genus that I don't really get into the species much with it, but I you know, I appreciate the genus. You're allowed to do that, you know. Oh, and we're coming up underneath one of the really cool oaks you get around here. At least cool so far that I've seen. This is that Quercus montana, I believe. I could be wrong. Oh, we get an ash here too, Fraxinus. Oh, you got all sorts of good stuff. And this one's got the minutely hairy branchlets. I'll figure out which Fraxinus this is. I'll take some pictures. I'll key all this out for you. I'll make sure that I'm not, you know, feeding you bad information. But I believe this to be Quercus montana, a mountain oak. Some of them are getting quite big. Some of them are still nice and shrubby. But I'll, you know, like I said, I'll key all this out for you, just so you can actually, you know, get the good information. What a lovely plant community. Hey, check out what we had here. Those are the fruits of Aquilegia canadensis. I was trying to figure out what I was looking at, then I saw those leaves poking out from underneath. And sure enough, that's a Columbine coming up under some sort of rubus. But how nice, oops, how nice are those leaves. They're done. They bloom, you know, these were in bloom in the 1st of May. So these are, you know, on their way out. What distinctive fruits they have, though. Quite an interesting plant. I'm going to do a whole spotlight on Aquilegia canadensis in the family. Of course, now my brain's going to just turn into a foggy mush. In the family Ranunculaceae, they're in the buttercup family, Thalastroideae subfamily, Balactrum. I got some stuff to say about that genus Salictrum, Balactrum, however you pronounce it. I completely glossed over a very interesting plant that I saw multiple times last year, but whatever. Not in flower right now. Don't need to spend too much time talking about it. Hey, we seen this guy too in the family Papaveraceae, occupying a very similar habitat to the Columbine. You've got Capnoides sempervirens here. Starting to go to fruit, in fact. Look at those little poppy pods. And look at those nice little compound blue leaves there. Perfectly adapted for open exposure. You've got to remember, this is in the Fumaroideae subfamily. I talked about this plenty in a video that I'm actually getting ready to edit right now. That'll be out way before this, so you want to see this, go check that video out. But these are, just know that these are in the Fumaroideae subfamily. and I'll put the what episode it is specifically down there if you want to go see it. It's just, you know, a weird, nice little subfamily, the poppy family, and then you get those poppy pods. You know, kind of unmistakable. Pretty neat though. Look at this dapper little lad. I love salamanders and newts. I don't know much about them, but I love them. God, I was just talking about how I feel like I never see them. Them, like many amphibians, but especially these guys, you know, they're getting hit really hard. You know, they absorb their, you know, they have the permeable skin. Any sort of toxins the environment gets to them. But what I guess really, you know, fucks with them is the fact that they have to cross roads a lot of the time to go from where they overwinter to go to, you know, to go to where they, you know, breed in the vernal pools and stuff. And unlike the toads toads and frogs, you know, who hop 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, right across the road in a couple seconds, these guys take quite a while. You know, they're pretty slow moving. You know, amphibians, man, they're so cool. Look at this guy. Look, he's just not even vibed out by me. He's just chilling. I wonder if this is, again, I will really have to do my research to figure out what species this is. I don't know. As I'm sure you know, when it comes to the animal kingdom, I'm a little bit less knowledgeable. A real-life dragon right there, though. How you doing, fella? How's your spring going? I hope it's going good. And I hope you stay alive. You guys can live for quite a while, from what I hear. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is a species of Uvularia that I have not seen before. I think this is Uvularia perfoliata, but it's in fruit. And let me get to zoom in there for you. And what an odd fruit it has. Look at that, 3-sided. Stigma still hanging off the thing. I think it's Uvularia perfoliata because it's got those perfoliate leaves. Look at that. That's nice. Even not in flower, that's pretty nice. It could also be completely wrong. So I'll figure out what it is, but if that's a Uvularia, that's a pretty cool one. I'm used to seeing Caecilifolia, but yeah, not bad. And I was reading up about this one. It's found right below where you get these basalt exposures, like that right there. So I mean, the location's right, the appearance is right. Here's another one right here, and I can't confirm right this second, but I'll look into it. That'd be pretty interesting. So you could almost get fooled into thinking this is a viburnum, but in fact what we have here is a really showy maple. This is Acer spicata, I believe. And you look at those flowers, you might say, hey, that's pretty, you know, that's pretty floristically, what am I trying to say? That's a pretty impressive display. Are you sure that's a maple? And indeed, I will direct you to these maturing samaras down here. I can get a better shot. Where are we looking here? Right there. Yeah, those are maple fruits, my friend. Acer spicata. And you can see it's got that, where it gets that epithet from. It's got these lovely spikes that come off. A shrub maple, if you would. Kind of like the oaks, you know. You get the oaks big, like that, but then you also get the shrub oaks, you know. You get shrub maples, too. There's a similar species to Taran maple, is invasive. This is the native one. I believe the native one's got, you know, fatter leaves. Pretty cool plant. I've never really stopped to pay attention to it. Sambucus is obviously the family. And then over here, we got a more familiar plant to me. We've got a species of Sambucus, which I don't need to get into. This is probably racemosa. It's hard to tell without the berries on it, but usually when you have the more conical, you know, well, I guess infructescence now because it's gone to fruit, you're usually dealing with Sambucus racemosa, not Sambucus nigra, but I don't need to spend too much time on it. Oh, there's a much better view of what those samaras look like. It's a maple for sure. Look at almost not even looking like a maple leaf on some of the branches. Got the opposite, you know, opposite leaves you would expect from a maple. That's a cool plant right there. I can't really lie. This gets kind of sketchy in places, huh? How about that? I won't be going any closer to the edge here, but looks like someone maybe does some rock climbing. This nice crack right here. The geology here is pretty It's pretty nice, you know what I'm saying? But let's continue on. We're not making very good pace, if I'm being blunt. Oh, look how nice this is. You got a maidenhair fern. I don't see many of these. Look how beautiful those leaves are. Form factor is really interesting. I don't know the scientific name offhand, but I'll put it up there for you. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out. Look at that though. Not your everyday fern. That's nice. Some ferns can be really interesting. Look at that. Oh, beautiful. I'll get the scientific name there for you. I already checked for sorry. No sorry on this guy. You got a Christmas fern down below, which does have, you know, laden with those spores, you know. How nice is that? Cool little fern dungeon here. Let's keep going. Hey, we got a real cool member of the family Orobancaceae here. We got Conopholis americana. We got bearcorn coming up under some beech trees. This is a completely achlorophyllous, makes no chlorophyll, does no work of its own, parasitic plant in a family made up of many, you know, parasites. And yeah, just completely taps in, parasitizes the root tissue of its host. Doesn't even look like a flower, but you get in there, you take note the entire thing. There's nothing but flowers. These are what the finished up ones look like. Just a couple of them still out. These bloom early. You know, it's not in focus. These bloom real early. There's a few of them still out and open down through here, but you know, I get the sense that the habitat type is changing a bit. So we'll see what else there is to see. What a cool little plant. These aren't even that rare. They're just kind of inconspicuous. You know, you gotta look. You'll see, you know, you'll see a whole bunch of this stuff first. This kind of disturbed looking soil with the spent ones popped out. And then if you look, you can see the kind of the yellow and white ones still going on. What a nice plant. Okay, I passed this plant plenty. I might as well talk about it now, just because I keep saying, oh, there'll be a better spot for it. Oh, there'll be a better spot for it. This is one of the 4 wonderful, wonderful species of Kalmia we have here in the Northeast. You also get Kalmia angustifolia with the little red or purple, little red or pink flowers on it. You get Kalmia polifolia, which kind of looks a little bit like angustifolia with opposite leaves and a little bit more diminutive habit. And then up on, you know, up in the presidentials, you get Kalmia procumbens, which is a you know, dwarf matted alpine plant. But this is Kalmia latifolia. This is the big boy, although it's not. This is, you know, these things get much bigger than this. I picked this one just because the flowers look nice on it. And let us take a look at those flowers. Check that out. Oh yeah, those are pretty darn nice. Oh, let me get that in focus for you. Those are pretty darn nice there. You know, fused, the backside of that. That's incredible. Look what these things look like, even in bud. Even in bud. There we go. They look pretty amazing. Leaves are evergreen, leathery. Kind of can see where it gets the common name mountain laurel from, just from those leaves. Really enigmatic, or not enigmatic, I keep using that word wrong. Really iconic plant of Appalachia, especially down south, Appalachia, you know. Up here, I guess they've had something of a range expansion just due to the fact that, for whatever reason, I guess these and chestnut don't get along. So they've been able to come in now that the chestnuts have kind of, you know, gone by the wayside. Actually, I'm looking at a dead one right next to me. It's got much more impressive bark. But then again, I see, you know, there's quite a few around. I'll show you the bark in a minute. These things are famous for their bark. And one other thing to show you with this guy. So obviously it's got these beautiful flowers. I'm going to see if I can demonstrate to you. I'll even get this a little bit closer. See if I can demonstrate to you one of the cool strategies that this thing employs to you know, get pollinated. I'll borrow a little stick here. I'll show you. We'll see if this works. Get that in focus. So a little pollinator flies in there, does its thing. Check out what the stamens do. Is it working? Yeah, there we go. It's got the spring-loaded stamens. See how that works? So a pollinator gets its little tush in there, brushes up against that, goes in there for the nectar down at the base there, and the entire time he's poking around, those stamens are, you know, coming in and hitting them and, you know, dusting them with pollen. And that's how the thing, you know, basically assures that whoever goes in there to visit is, you know, is doing some work for the plant, so to speak. You know, could have talked about this thing a million different times. I just picked right now to do it. I'll find a living specimen. I'll show you the bark in a bit. It might be, you know, might be a little bit non sequitur, but that's okay. No big deal. Lovely, lovely plant, and I believe I have now talked about all 4 species of Kalmia on this show. If I haven't mentioned it, these are, I always screwed this up. They're in the same I can't remember if they're in the same tribe as rhododendrons, but definitely in the Ericoideae subfamily. I don't know. I'll put the correct thing down there below. I had this all memorized a while ago when I was looking at Kalmia Perfoliata, but then I, you know, oh, you know what? That video got deleted that I talked about Kalmia Perfoliata in it. But I think I've seen it on Mount Washington, so it might be in an older video. But I had a really good, you know, really good footage of Kalmia Perfoliata. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Whatever. It happens. Yeah. Yeah, right here. That's what the bark looks like on Kalmia latifolia. Really, really gorgeous overall form factor to the bigger ones. This one's not quite in bloom. Just contorted, and, you know, they'll cover an area just like this, you know. This one's pretty straight up. What a lovely plant. Hard to believe that it's in the same genus as that little dwarf prostrate plant that grows in the alpine zone. Not many species of Kalmia. I think probably 6 or 7. And I think the procumbens, the dwarf alpine one, is the only one that really, I think that has a circumarctic distribution, but I could be wrong on that. Most of them, you know, are pretty restricted to the east coast of America. Anyway, you know, lovely genus, a genus I admire very much, but one that I'm kind of moving away from. I've seen all 4 of them, 3 of which I've seen in, you know, diverse array of habitats. But yeah, you know, still one I appreciate. Love to plant this out. Some people do. It's actually not that uncommon as an ornamental, which, I mean, thank goodness, you know. This plant nearly gave me a heart attack because this looks exactly like what one of the target species of today looks like. This is not that species though. This is a species of lily. This is Mediola virginiana, and there's one without an inflorescence. That is exactly what the basal leaves of Isotria verticillata look like. However, you can see on these flowering specimens here, that is not it's not an orchid, but a lovely lily. Look at the wild style, stigma. What do you call it? The stigma or the style? I don't even know what you call it. Little wild, you know, the stigma. I'll just say stigma. That it's got the reflex petals up top. The little anthers hanging down below. This is the only one flowering. It's still early for these guys. These guys will be going off through June. You know, a weird monotypic member of the lily family, most closely related to Clintonia. In fact, I think I know for a fact that Medioli is a tribe consisting of Mediola virginiana and all the species of Clintonia. You know, the 6 or 7 species you get. But I'll be keeping an eye out. I'll be stopping every single other time I see this plant. I'll be stopping because I'll think it's the Isotria, the orchid I'm looking for. In fact, the much more rare Isotria medioloides gets its species epithet from its resemblance to this plant. But we'll keep our eyes peeled. Still a cool one. Still one of my favorite goddamn plants. But not exactly a rare one. It ain't too bad up here, you know? Ain't too bad at all. What a nice, well, I guess probably looking at a juniper right there. What a nice little range. We're gonna keep going though. Yeah, check out who we got here. Asclepias quadrifolia. We got a milkweed. we got a pretty cool milkweed too. This one's kind of rare in some localities around here. I don't believe it's technically endangered here in Massachusetts, but it is in New Hampshire, and it's a threatened species in Rhode Island. So somewhat unusual one, a woodland milkweed. Most milkweeds, number one, are growing in, growing out in the open fields or in open wetlands, but this one likes the woods, I should say. Take a look at that flower structure there, man. You gotta love milkweeds. Crazy, crazy pollination strategy that I will, probably butcher if I try to get into it right now. Basically, all you gotta know is this is actually doing something similar to the orchids that we're looking for today. It's got a pollinarium in there, got a pollinia, got a sticky mass of pollen. Of course, no relation to orchids at all. But yeah, look at those flowers. Thing smells delightful. See these little things sticking up right here. Insect's got to get his foot in there. Got to get that little pollen grain attached to it, or pollen sac attached to him, and he's gonna come out. He's gonna go to the next plant. Rather interesting. I admittedly, every single time I come up with talking about them, and don't get me wrong, they're absolutely amazing plants. I just always butcher how the pollination goes. I should just make a plant spotlight video about Asclepias syriaca, the common milkweed, and just do a thorough explanation. Because once I get it done once, I will be able to explain, the thing at any point. Just know that this guy is doing, he's got pollinia in there, a very specialized method of pollination, and just in general, these are super duper ecologically, important, members of the plant, members of the ecology, and easy to grow. One of the few native plants I'm actually getting to grow well in my yard right now. Let me show you those world leaves down there. Very unusual for a milkweed. Most milkweeds have opposite leaves. In fact, I think nearly all of them have opposite leaves, but this one's got its leaves in a whirl of 4. Just a couple of them right here. You could almost mistake it for the viburnum acerifolium there. As I was walking by, I happened to look over and I said, hey, just something ever so slightly looks off about those flowers over there. I came in, checked it out, and sure enough, Asclepias quadrifolia, the four-leaved milkweed. How about that? Nice one. Hey, well there you go. That's a species of orchid right there. You got a Goodyeara. You got a rattlesnake plantain. I believe this would be Goodyeara pubescens, but I'm not sure because it's not really pubescent. But absolutely, unmistakably, a species of Goodyeara. Not too hard to track these guys down. I've seen Goodyeara in a few different locations. Still a wonderful plant, a treat every time you find it. Look at the venation on those leaves there. Oh my goodness, so nice. I believe these are an Orchidoideae subfamily, mostly terrestrial orchid subfamily. Of course, every orchid in the Northeast is a terrestrial orchid that grows on the ground. Even though the majority of orchids in the world are epiphytes, growing on trees. But here's one. There's two. That's the one I noticed initially. So maybe that's a good sign. Maybe we haven't seen anything like that yet. So maybe we're getting into that type of habitat that they favor. Although I'm not sure if this is, liking the same habitat type as other species, specifically the target species. But whatever, that's usually how it goes. You set out looking for one thing, you find something else, and then eventually you come across what you're looking for. So, not bad. Goodyeara, probably pubescens. Well, that'd be 2 orchids down for the day, but, two that we've seen before. You get Cypripedium accal here, pink lady slipper. Just 2 of them. Usually more abundant, but they're not usually on the calcareous stuff, which kind of informs me that maybe I'm not in the area that I want to be. But whatever, still a nice one. Hopefully, if we go around on the way back and out, we'll be able to see one of its cousins, Cypripedium parviflorum. Actually, what am I talking about? I'm full of shit. There are localities where you get 4 species of lady slipper growing together, but we'll see how this shakes out. We'll see what else is going on around here. But that's 2 down, but we're 0 for 2 on a new species to us, unfortunately. I get a deer all pissed off and blowing at me up there. Can you hear him? He's not happy about it. I think he wants to come down here to take a drink. Sorry, big guy. Okay, so here's a plant I've seen. But, oh, that deer. And sorry. That deer, he took off. He wasn't too happy with me. As soon as I snapped the twig, he turned around and he ran. But here's a cool plant in the family of Acer. I'm down here by the brook actually looking for different species in the same family, Trillium cernuum. Couldn't find Trillium cernuum, but I found this guy here. This is Veratrum variety, which we've seen before, but now it's in flower. And sure enough, you take a look at those flowers. You can see it's got the 6 tepals. You can see how that would be Acer. It's a nice inflorescence too. Yeah, I never had the chance to actually check this thing out while it's in bloom. Kind of a really, really nice flowering structure, though. Super, super ridiculously poisonous. So don't go, putting it in your mouth or anything like that. But interesting plant. Not what I came over here to see, but you know what? I'll take it. I gotta move on. I gotta put some more miles on. I actually took a little bit of a detour, but yeah, that's okay. It's been a minute since I checked in. I've been hauling ass through here. Check out this nice species of a spring blooming aster right here. You got a species of Pachyra. I believe this is Pachyra aria. I'm not sure. And an interesting tribe in the aster family, Senecione. I hope I'm getting that right. Once you get going, where are the leaves? So down at the bottom. It's a ragwort, pretty nice. Well, after seeing dozens of pink lady slippers and those cute little newts, about 100 rattlesnake plantains, I'm starting to think we're not going to end up getting to see the pogonia or the yellow lady slippers. So I still got a couple more miles I got to haul back to my car. I'm tempted to call it there. Of course, if anything comes up, I'll be sure to let you know. But in the more likely than not case, nothing does come up, I will make this my farewell. And I hope that you come back for the next video. Hopefully this orchid fetish either wears itself out or I start finding some of these bastards, because it's getting a little frustrating, Anyway, that's about all I got for right now. So I will likely be bidding you farewell right now. Take it easy.